Welcome to today's video on Chapter 12, Section 6, talking about surface area and volume of a sphere. A sphere is just a three-dimensional circular object. Notice there's no lateral area because there's not a base of a sphere. A sphere is just circular, so there's only the surface area. The surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared because it's a circle. And a sphere is said to be made of 4 circles. Kind of like a basketball is an example of a sphere. So if you're finding the surface area of a sphere, you need to know the radius. So here it says the radius is 4.5. So we're going to go 4 times 4.5 squared times pi, because it's 4 pi r squared. So when we multiply 4 times 4.5 squared times pi, we get 254.46, which rounds to 254.5 square inches, because we're talking about area. So here, next one, surface area of this sphere, the radius is 6.25. So once again, the surface area is equal to 4 pi r squared. So it's 4 times pi times 6.25 squared. And when you type that in your calculator, you get 490.87, which rounds to 490.9 square inches, which is D. All right, so now you have a surface area of a hemisphere. A hemisphere, remember, is half of a sphere. So the surface area of the hemisphere is half of 4 pi r squared. Half of 4 is 2, so it's 2 pi r squared. The radius here is 3.7. So when you go 2 times 3.7 squared times pi, you get 86.01, so basically 86.0 square millimeters. Find the surface area of the sphere if the circumference of the great circle, meaning the circle that makes up the middle of it, is 10 pi. So the circumference of the great circle is 10 pi, which means the diameter, because remember circumference is 2 pi r, so 10 pi equals 2 pi r. So the radius, once I divide by 2 pi, the radius is equal to 5. So to find the surface area, remember it's 4 pi r squared. So 4 pi times 5 squared. And you get 314.2 square feet. Next one, it says the area of the great circle is approximately 220 square meters. Well, we need to find the radius. And because remember, surface area is 4 pi r squared. So the area of the circle, remember, is pi r squared. Well, I know the area is 220 square meters. So I need to find the radius. So I divide by pi. So 220 divided by pi is 70.02. And then you take the square root, and when you take the square root of that, you get 8.4 is the radius. So now we use that to find our surface area. So it's 4 pi times 8.4 squared. And that is 886.7 square meters. That is our surface area. So here's the next example. Find the surface area of the hemisphere. Remember, surface area of a hemisphere is just half of a sphere, so it's 2 pi r squared. So it's 2 pi times 4.2 squared. And when you multiply, you get 110.8 square meters, which is A. The surface area of a sphere, if the circumference of the great circle is 8 pi, so notice the circumference of that is 8 pi, so remember circumference is 2 pi r. So, since the circumference is 8 pi, divided by 2 pi, will give us 4 for the radius, and then to find the surface area, going to go 4 times pi times 4 squared. And when you type that in your calculator, it's 201.0. Actually, it's 0.1, sorry. 201.1 square feet. B. All right, here's another example of, they give you the area of the great circle. So remember, area is pi r squared. So to find the radius, we divide by pi. So 160 divided by pi gives you 50.9. And that's equal to r squared. And then you take the square root of that. That gives you 7.1 as the radius. And then remember, surface area is equal to 4 pi r squared for the sphere. So 4 pi times 7.1 squared. And that gives you 633.5. Gives you 640 square feet. Now, you might be saying if you multiply that, it doesn't give you that. But remember, if you round within the problem, it's not going to give you the correct answer. So remember, when you take the square root of 160 divided by pi, and that's right there, when you take the square root of that, remember, you can do the answer. It gives you that. If you square that times 4 pi, it gives you 640. But if you round to 7.1 like I did, it might give you 633. So that's why you didn't get exactly 640. All right, now for the volume. The volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Because remember, you take a third of the area of the circle. So now, 4/3 pi r cubed. So now you need to know the radius. So it says find the volume of a sphere with a great circle of a circumference of 30 pi centimeters. So we need to find the radius. Remember, circumference is 2 pi r. So 30 pi equals 2 pi r. Divide by 2 pi. We get that the radius is 15. So the volume is equal to 4/3 pi times 15 cubed. So when we type that in our calculator, now remember, whenever you're doing fractions in your calculator, you want to do parentheses. 4 divided by 3 times pi times 15. If you want to do cubed, you have to hit this caret and then raise it to the third power. And that gives you 14,137.2 cubic centimeters. All right. So volume of a hemisphere is going to be half of 4/3 pi r cubed. Well, half of 4/3 is 2/3 pi r cubed. Says the diameter is 6 feet, so that means the radius is 3. So you go 2/3 pi times 3 to the third. So when you type that in your calculator, you got 2/3 pi and then 3 to the third. And it gives you 56.5. cubic feet. All right, the next one, find the volume of the sphere to the nearest tenth. Radius is 8 centimeters, so the volume is 4/3 pi 8 cubed. When you type that in your calculator, you get 2,144.7 cubic centimeters. So that is C. The next one is a hemisphere. Remember, the volume is half of it, so it's 2/3 pi r cubed. The radius here is 40, so it's 2/3 pi times 40 cubed. And that will be 134,041.3 cubic meters. So that would be D. All right, here's some practice problems that you can do, and also you have your homework worksheet. Hopefully you have a good weekend, and I will see you in class on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.